There have been times, many times, while my husband is working, a cause or a source of something might be astral fragments. I'm going to have my husband explain to us now, what are astral fragments?
Or what astral fragments are.
Oh yes, very good. Great way to rephrase the question.
Astral fragments are, okay, let's go back to the concept of we are all energy, correct?
Yes.
And to us, we appear in this physical body, and that's why it's hard for us to remember that we're made up of nothing but energy.
Mm-hmm.
So when we die, the physical body goes into the ground or it gets cremated, but the energy part continues on its journey.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It goes with the soul.
Okay.
That's us, the energy part. Well, when that happens, just like energy anywhere, it can detach. Sometimes it can break off. And when it breaks off, it wanders away and it can go and attach to anything. So, let me give you some examples.
Mm-hmm.
A big one that people don't think about, and as a matter of fact, this is something that I hadn't been checking for, and I'll start checking for this now.
Okay.
So it was just brought up to me today, or just before this session, and I realized, oh wow, we definitely need to check on this, and I'll be going back and checking on this for all of the females. And you'll see why in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is, when a mother gives birth,
Yes.
after the birth has taken place,
Mm-hmm.
what happens next with the female? Because there's a big important thing that happens.
Her body cleanses and goes back into physical shape.
So how does it cleanse? What's the thing that has to be gotten rid of?
The entire sac that the baby was in and everything in the
placenta,
uterus.
right?
So placenta
It's
has
called
to
the
be gotten rid of, and then everything
Exactly.
else. Right.
So imagine this placenta now has to be taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about purging, pregnancy purging.
Right.
Well, the placenta is also a purging that takes place.
Okay.
Well, if the mom during this process has any type of negative emotions, let's say for example she's going through a lot of pain, and she's like, I hate this kid for giving me all this pain or whatever it is.
Or directing it toward her husband.
No, talking about more the child.
Oh. Okay.
Because or any negative things that she might have at that time. It doesn't have to be at the child, but even about herself, about the situation taking place.
All right. Okay.
All right, like, oh, I don't like
Why
this.
did I do this? Why did I put myself through this?
Or maybe just like, I don't like this. This is too painful. Let's get it over with.
Okay.
Well, remember, this is all energy.
Right.
So the placenta, and a lot of people don't realize this, our body, we have the physical body, and then we have these energetic bodies, right?
Right.
And the one right next to our physical body, the first layer is called what? Do you know?
No.
It's called the etheric body.
The etheric body. So
The etheric-
physical, then etheric.
Right.
Okay.
And that's your first layer of your aura. The aura has so many layers. Your first layer of your aura, which is closest to your physical body, is called your etheric body. Well, the etheric body is an exact replica of your physical body.
Okay.
Exact replica. Except it's in energy form. Have you ever heard of people where they've had surgery and they've lost a limb?
Mm-hmm. But they say it still feels like their limb is there?
Exactly.
Yes.
Guess why?
Because it's still on their etheric body.
The etheric energy is still there. So that limb, let's say it's a leg, the leg, the energy representation of a leg is still there. That's why they feel the leg is still there.
God.
And they've had experiments where they've taken needles and they've poked just into space, just an empty space, and the person reacts. Because the energy is still there.
Wow.
Okay? That's to show you, I go through that to show you that even though the physical aspect is gone, the spiritual, the energetic aspect is still there. It's real. And you could probably find YouTube videos on that, just so you can see for yourself. I hope people look it up. Just look for any, like people having surgeries or whatever that might be called, removing a body part. Amputees, right? And how they can still feel as though it's there.
Amputees who still feel
there.
their limbs.
That's correct. Okay, so now, what does that have to do with anything?
Right.
So here's the placenta. It's released from the mother, right? Not mama, from the mother.
Right.
It comes out, it's collected and taken care of.
Right.
Well, there's still an energetic placenta. Remember that there is a copy in the energetic field of everything that's physical.
So a woman who's had 10 kids, she's got 10 energetic placentas hanging around out there?
If it's not done properly.
See, what's not done properly?
Okay, for example, you have to get rid of the placenta, right?
The physical.
The physical placenta. Well, certain things should be done in order. For example, if a woman goes through the where they put them to sleep or not put them to sleep.
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia, right. Well, think about it. The muscles are not naturally behaving the way they should.
Right.
That's been forced out. How does it affect the placenta coming out? That could be an issue. So the energy that is supposed to come out with that placenta, the physical placenta, could have stayed inside the female. If that happens, then that's an astral fragment there.
Oh, interesting.
Get it? Mm-hmm. Because all those, exactly, so now that can affect her in a negative way. Now, we don't say that to scare anybody, we just want to explain
what an astral fragment is.
Exactly.
And this is one example of an astral fragment that affects women.
That give birth.
Who have given birth.
And the same thing with a miscarriage. It can also happen in a miscarriage. Because keep in mind again that that baby was attached to something. So if that isn't released properly, then of course the energy is still there as well. So that's one. The big ones that have to do with, for example, when someone, and we call it a missing bit, is what that one is called.
I've heard you say that before.
Right? And with that, it's called a missing bit because what happens is you'll feel as though there's a part of you missing. You don't feel whole. So if there's anybody watching this video and you feel like you just don't feel like yourself.
You don't feel complete.
Exactly. There's something missing. There probably is something missing. And that part that's missing is what we call a missing bit. And when it comes back, you'll know because you'll just feel whole again, or you'll start to operate a little differently in certain aspects of your life. And we can tell you how it affects you, and then
what part of the body it's from.
Exactly. So what causes that? Do you remember?
Yes, traumatic experiences.
What would entail a traumatic experience? Now this could be at any age, right?
Right. Well, for instance, in my case, there was a missing bit, and it was from the back of my head because.
Oh yes, that's right.
Because of a fall that I had taken in the winter, where I was, I think about maybe 8 years old, and I was walking home from the neighbor's house, which was 2 houses from my parents. And when I got to my house, I stepped on the driveway, which my dad had just cleared. And I fell, and the next thing I knew, I woke up and my head was hurting, and I knew Mom was going to yell at me because I was going to be late for dinner. And when I got into the house, my mom was livid with me, yelling at me, "Where were you? Where have you been? We have been calling everyone." And I told her, well, I got to the stairs and I fell by the car in the driveway, and now my head hurts really badly. She said, "We've been looking for you for half an hour." It's like, really? It turned out I had blacked out on the ice and had a huge lump on my head. And years later, here we are, my husband's doing work, and he said, "There's a missing bit. It's from the back of your head." And I had always told my husband that I felt like an airhead.
Yes, that's right. I never tease you about it.
And he would always tease me, but I wasn't kidding, because I felt like information or things would go in, but like they would just fall out. And that was that. Once that bit was replaced and restored, I feel like I have a whole lot better memory now.
The air is out of your head.
There's no more airhead.
I remember that. 'Cause he used to tease
No
me about
longer
that.
breezy in there.
That's right. I remember that
Right.
one. I remember that one. So that's a good example.
Yes.
Traumatic experience. Something
Traumatic
happened.
experience,
You know, and it affects you in a way where you're in shock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you get knocked in the head where you're knocked out.
Right.
And when that happens, a piece of you actually leaves.
Yep.
And it's the energetic part of you leaves your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because it feels as though the only way it can survive is if it goes away. Now it's still connected to you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's floating out there, and it won't return until it's reassured that everything is fine. It's safe for it to return.
Right.
So for all those years since you were 8 until you were whatever age, it was just floating out there. And once and at that time I wasn't interested in doing spiritual work.
He was
so
not.
I apologize.
Otherwise, years ago, this could have been taken care of, but
Yeah.
no.
You didn't have to be an airhead for too long. Maybe that's why you suckered me to this. He can all this stuff. Anyway, but that's a wonderful one. That's a really good one. Man.
Right.
So you always feel like there's something missing, you know, and that's one way of describing it. People might be doing the same thing, describing themselves a certain way, and that's how you know there's something wrong here, you know. So that's one way. You might have had an accident of some kind.
Right. Could be this one we've seen quite often as well as people, especially children, who've gone through a divorce situation with their parents or a separation of some kind, which is very traumatic for kids. And to help cope with that, sometimes they just shut off some of their emotions, which basically forces a piece of themselves to leave. And then later on, now as adults, you know, they have got relationship challenges or other things going on. It turns out, you know, part of them was missing. And once that's been brought back, things improve for them.
Yeah.
It could be the loss of a loved one, you know, that it's so traumatic for someone that a piece of them breaks off.
It could be where they get knocked out. And I mentioned earlier, but I want to elaborate a little bit, where you might get hit in the head, like yourself, and you're knocked out, or maybe they're playing soccer, you hit in the head and there's a concussion.
Right.
And when that happens, a piece of you might go missing.
You have surgery.
Oh yes, most definitely. Surgery. Why is that?
Because it's a very traumatic experience for the physical body. And
No,
depending
that
on the
they drug you.
emotions with it, and the drugs.
It's a drug,
Just,
right.
Oh, that whole combination, right?
No, because of the drug, they could also have possessions and attachments too.
Yes.
So surgery is good. That's why.
So if you're watching this and you've had a surgery, you're about to have one, it's okay to call. Let us know. We'll help you out there.
Well, that's what we do, right? Especially when we know the individuals are going into surgery, we prepare for them.
Right, and we have a
To go to
testimonial
surgery.
out there about that too.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
They could watch the
And
testimonial
then
about that.
when they come out of surgery, then we also work on them to make sure the attachments are not there, or we get rid of those quickly. So yeah, any type of side effects from potential anesthesia that was
So
given
pain
to them.
medication.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right.
those we handle because they're specific to surgery.
Yes.
Otherwise, we don't do that.
Right.
What else? Then we have the ones abuse.
Oh, yes.
Any type of, whether it's verbal, you know, whether it's emotional, physical abuse, though, you know, especially for kids, for everybody, but especially for kids, right?
Right. Well, for an individual who's in an abusive relationship, male or female, I mean, they could both get into abusive relationships. Those can do it as well. I thought of another one. Oh, my question is, can it also come from self-abuse? Like someone who just wants to drown out the memory, I'll say, of a situation, so then they start drinking or taking drugs or doing things like that, or they start smoking. Could that cause an astral fragment?
I've never experienced that one, and I'm waiting to see if I'll get an answer about that. Well, no.
Okay.
That wouldn't be.
It's the experience itself then that would cause
No,
that?
it's because if someone is doing that, it's because they have attachments or possessions.
I see.
So once those are taken care of, so the attachments or possessions are the ones controlling that individual. So it's not a traumatic experience for them. For someone looking on, it's a traumatic experience.
I see.
But for the person going through it, most of them have no clue. You know, because they're just being controlled by this entity.
Got it.
So that's why. I'm just telling you what I'm getting.
Okay.
So,
thank you to whoever gave that.
so that wouldn't be Archangel Michael.
Thanks, Archangel
So
Michael.
that wouldn't be one. But then here's a good one though, which we've seen a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
There's an astral fragment from someone that's passed.
Oh, you mean as an attachment to us?
That's correct.
An astral fragment that is attached to us from someone who's passed.
And the interesting thing about that is I've seen where it comes both ways. Where it could be, of course, the physical body dies,
Mm-hmm.
but now the energetic part of the individual is leaving, right?
Right.
But that can break into pieces. And when it breaks into pieces, one piece can go and attach to somebody that has the same frequency.
Ah.
So you might be at a funeral,
Uh-huh.
right? So it attaches to you. You don't have to be related to the person.
You could just walk past the funeral parlor.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's
Maybe you're
point.
the coroner or the
long-
nurse or doctor who took care of the individual.
As long as your frequency is the same as that
Wow.
fragment. Now, let's hope that, for example, the part of that fragment that attached to you is just wants to play the piano. So you just find yourself wanting to play the piano all the time. That's a good thing, right?
That's an okay thing. Even though you don't want that fragment, you know, at least that's a good influencing habit.
But that's not how it normally goes.
No, because normally astral fragments are because of something traumatic.
Right.
So,
So-
if something's attaching to you, it's an astral fragment from someone else, it's probably going to be non-beneficial.
Right. Right. So what happened, let's say, for example, a person loved chocolate. All right.
But
Now,
you wouldn't
that's
think it's a
nothing
bad thing.
Right.
But if you
It's
start
nothing
eating
bad.
chocolate all the time, you can get diabetes, you can gain weight.
Well, here's the thing, right? When a person were alive,
Mm-hmm.
that part of them that loved chocolate, remember, it's just a part of them, right?
Right.
This is a part of them that loved chocolate, was part of the entire body. So it wasn't out of control
Right.
because it was being controlled by the rest of the body.
But now the rest of the body isn't there.
Exactly.
So now it's going to go out of control. It just wants it all the time.
All the time. So if all of a sudden you find yourself wanting chocolate all the time, and that's not something you would normally want, you know there's something wrong.
Now, this is an attachment.
It's an attachment, right?
So
not a
as,
possession.
as an attachment, if it was someone who
If it
enjoyed,
were.
if it were from someone who enjoyed drinking alcohol every now and again,
Right.
and that had
You'd
the
find
alcohol,
yourself
it would find yourself, you'll see yourself drinking
wanting
more
to
alcohol.
drink alcohol, right? And you probably wind up drinking it.
Ah, that's why Archangel Michael said it comes from attachments and possessions. I got it now.
What comes from attachment and possessions? I don't.
The alcohol and the smoking or the drug habit, it comes from possessions and attachments.
Oh,
Because now an astral fragment has become an attachment, and if it has that habit and it attaches to you, then you can be influenced to start doing that habit.
oh, you will be, more than likely, and that's when you can tell. You know, when you start to get involved in something more than usual, you should definitely start wondering, you know, what's going on. You know, if all of a sudden you just want to eat more, why is it all of a sudden you want to eat more? Okay, maybe you've decided that you don't want to starve yourself anymore. But is that really the case? I don't think so. Okay, so especially if it's unhealthy eating, I think you're eating a lot, right? Or all different times of the night. You know that it's time to really just do a check-in. You know, so send us a message. You know, could you just check me? Maybe there's something going on. Now, please don't tell us how to do our job.
Right, no.
I don't like that. Okay, I'm being
No.
guided. I get guided on what to do with you. So you don't need to tell me what to do. Just say, here's my concern, and the rest will be taken care of. Anyway, so I think that's a big one, because I've seen people get headaches from those. Actually, they could wind up with illness from that type of astral fragment. I've also seen where loved ones, the astral fragments of loved ones, get attached to their loved ones. And that's also not very good.
Right.
And people might think, okay, let's say your sibling, well, I won't say your sibling, but
In
they're still
general.
alive, right? So we don't
general.
want to say that. But let's say a good friend of somebody. I said, well, I'd say a sibling. Let's say a sibling for somebody, right?
Passed away.
Passed away. And you were close to that sibling. And all of a sudden, this astral piece, this astral fragment, attaches to you. And we identify it. We say, oh, it's an astral fragment from the sibling of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh. And then we say, oh, this is how it's affecting you. Like, but my sibling was not like that. They were very nice and kind, and they were very nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they behave this way now? It goes back to what I said earlier. Why do you think that would happen?
Because it's just a part of them. And that part of them did this. And that's now attached to you, and it doesn't have a control of any kind, so it's just constantly sending out the signal, this is what I want, this is what I want.
And that's the key.
Right, and it could go for, I know we've had it with individuals from the grandparents who've passed on, and they've had astral fragment attachments from grandparents who've passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And
those are some interesting ones, because the grandparents, for whatever reason, when a grandparent passes on, if an astral fragment is there, it normally goes to the kids. They seem to get attached to the kids easily. Mm-hmm. The kids are more susceptible to them. Mm-hmm. And you'll find that. And some people grow up and they've been influenced this whole time and they don't realize it. Later on it becomes a problem.
Right.
They might start thinking about this person and all of a sudden something bad, not very good happen. They might have bad feelings, negative mm-hmm. feelings, negative things happen. And then the final one I was going to mention, mm-hmm. and I actually forgot now, but I don't remember what it was. But there was one more, because we talked about the grandparents passing away with the grandkids.
Family members or friends just walking past a funeral home, picking up an astral fragment that way.
Walking past a hospital.
Walking past a hospital.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? Any, or even like an abortion center.
Oh, right, because didn't we have someone who who walked home past an abortion clinic and didn't realize it and kept getting attachments?
Yep. Like practically every day.
And then the person's like, oh, I just realized this, like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Exactly. Oh. So any place like that, mm-hmm. that's why when you go to a clinic,
right,
to go see a doctor, and as long as there's sick people there and deaths have taken place there, there's a good chance that something can attach to you. So if you leave there feeling sort of strange, more than likely something's happened and it's time to clear yourself.
Did it happen from visiting a cemetery?
Oh, that's the other one I was going to say. No, the cemetery is not, they're already dead. Okay, it's not what people think.
Okay, all right, go ahead. I have another question, but you had just remembered.
Another one is people with schizophrenia.
Okay.
Whether it's dementia or schizophrenia, if that person has those, they already have astral fragments coming off them even though they're alive. So
dementia, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia.
Exactly. Because they're already not thinking clearly.
So they're already breaking apart.
Exactly. That's
in
the
their
part I wanted to
etheric
mention.
astral body. Wow. The one I was going to ask about is like the people like to go and visit those old Nazi concentration camps.
Anything like that, yeah.
Okay.
The
Stuff will be there.
Great there. Yep.
Okay. All right, we hope this has helped you. If you want to share it, please do so. You can find us on YouTube, 190vision, Facebook, Clearing and Healing and Guidance, as well as our website, 190vision.com.